Welcome to Quest Givers. I'm the DMG, and with me is DM Scotty. And this video is going to be a page through of our collaborative module, the Green Mine, or Green Mine, which we did with 3D printed tabletop for their Lost Adventures Kickstarter. This is a lot of fun, this little module. The Lost Adventures was by Danny Herrero and Dylan Olney. Dylan! And you can basically, they approached us and said, do you want to do a module for all the miniatures we're doing in our Kickstarter? So, of course, you know, being people who just love writing modules, well, absolutely, let's do it. So
let's do this.
Do this. So they sent us a list of all the miniatures that were going to be in their Kickstarter that were going to be available, and they are now available as in their sort of backer kit after sales thing, which there'll be a link in the description below, so you can actually get all the miniatures of all the things that are mentioned in here. But yeah, Scotty, so they gave us this huge list. So what did we have to do? How did we go about actually creating this?
Yeah. So the Kickstarter is called the Lost Adventures, and they had quite a good selection of miniatures and terrain. So what we had a list going, like you mentioned, and we tried to use as many things from the models as we could in the module itself, so that you could use all those models you were getting from the Kickstarter. So that was a fun challenge, I think, for us to come up with all this stuff that links all this together. But I think we did a pretty good job. We didn't use every miniature, of course, but we used a good selection of miniatures from the Lost Adventures, including the dragon. So you got the set piece of the dragon, so you got to have the dragon. So we use the dragon for sure. And as we go through the modules, you see some pictures, and there's a lot of terrain there's actually terrain and miniatures from the Kickstarter. You see how fantastic they look.
So if you're into 3D printing and you use terrain and things in your adventures, this adventure is great for that. If you don't use terrain, it still works perfectly fine as a wonderful adventure. It just happens to be the catalyst for what we did. So the Green Mine is only available as a PDF. I've merely printed it out and created a booklet from it to do this page through, but it is only available as a PDF on our website. The artwork of the cover is Scotty's miniatures that he's produced, and a waterfall, and then obviously our standard sort of cover design. And we're just going to do a page through of it and show you sort of what you're getting. So obviously just a breakdown in the beginning of who did what, and then it just jumps straight in. So there's no summary of what happens in the adventure. You, as the DM, have to read all the way through. And it starts in this small riverside town called Riverside, which is nice and handy when you've got your own world and you want a small town, and like the name will kind of fit in because of its location, so it makes sense that's why the name is. And that's sort of what we do in all our adventures. We try to name things according to location rather than some historical name or something, so that it does fit into more worlds. So tell us a little bit about sort of how it all starts, Scotty.
Yeah, so the adventurers arrive. They might have arrived by river, because it is Riverside, and basically there's an Edgewater Tavern, right? And we thought it'd be fun to have the kind of traditional tavern. You wouldn't necessarily have to do that because there are lots of people to talk to in the town, and they're all, I don't think we're that page yet, but they're all dialogue options in this. So whatever avenue the players that come into this town, whether that's on foot or river, or they just decide to go to the inn, like a lot of adventurers do, they can start right there. So that's fun with this module. You got all these inns, you got all these inns to the adventure, you got all these people that you're going to find out things about the area from. So that's one of our key things that we do with our modules. We do dialogue options that helps you, so you're not going to forget all the rumors and that kind of stuff. It's nice because it's almost like a rumor table, except it's flavored, right? Yep. Because each character has their own flavor for delivering the information. So that's really fun. It seems to me less generic than like a rumor table, because you get to meet all these fun people.
Yeah, you don't have to make up on the fly how are you going to fit this into normal speech. So not only are you getting like here you got Nigellus the Sage, right? So this is obviously an intelligent, well-spoken person, and so the dialect, the dialogue that they speak reflects that. So you don't have to come up with that on the fly, and then all the important information is built into what they say. So as it progressed through, obviously we had to start making design choices in this module based on what miniatures were available, and that's why we started to introduce things like a statue and a ghost and all these kind of things, and then make them fun and feel organic. Because I think a lot of the times when you're trying to use a set bit of things, I've got this terrain I want to use and I've got these miniatures I want to use, it can feel a little bit forced. Like, why is this here? Why on earth would you put that here? And so we had to really think carefully about how to massage all of that in so that it felt like it should have been there the whole time and it wasn't something that was just forced upon you.
Exactly. And, you want the world to feel organic and logical. You know what I'm saying? You can just throw stuff in. You can throw everything in the kitchen sink in. And sometimes that feels like you just threw everything in. There was no thought to the recipe, right? You just threw everything in and made whatever cookies. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. But if you think about the ingredients you're going to put in the cookie, right? You usually have a better cookie. Now I want cookies.
Cookies.
I want adventure cookies.
Note to self, next one needs to have cookie crumbs on the pages.
Yeah, there we go.
So another thing of what we do, which we did in our North Road adventures and all that sort of thing, is here's an encounter with some orcs, and the orc leader is speaking in orc. So we give you the orc way of speaking, so the orc language, and then beneath that we have the actual common or English translation of what they're saying. So when they ask about the waterfall or the cave, the orc says, "Wien ken una dig dara. Wien nanan vanau shiny shiny." So that translates, we know you have a mine there. We have no interest in your metals. So you have a great way to speak orc, and you can do it as gruff and whatever it is you like. And then obviously it gives the players an opportunity. If a character speaks orc, they can then understand what they're saying, or they can pass a check to try to decipher what the orc is saying, and you can give them little snippets of information. So you might pick out a word or 3 words or something and give them an idea of what the orc is saying. So that's super, super useful. And like most of our modules where we do dialogue, whenever we have languages, we try to include those sort of fantasy languages in there for that purpose. So our artwork, so anyone who knows us, I'll just wait for it to clear up a little bit. This is the Tilvertonians. You might have seen it when it was clearer. So that's the Tilvertonians.
And we actually have an homage to my character Pivel in the module. He's the farmer, and so you can talk to him in the module, who I played in the Tilvertonians. So if you want to look the Tilvertonians up, you can do that.
So here's when you start to go up the river.
Yeah, I'm really proud of these photos. I think they came out exceptionally well. I really wanted to showcase the miniatures and exciting scenes, and I think I captured that pretty well in these pictures. And that's something from our other, from the North Road that we do. We take terrain pictures and use them in the book, and it's not something that's commonly done, or I don't know if anybody does it, except like magazines and things that feature miniatures, in adventures like this. So it's a fun way to get you excited, and it really fits for this module because it's for the Lost Adventures, right? And these are miniatures from the Lost Adventures, so you can see how great they look, on the tabletop, in these fight scenes and everything. Imagine them having, adventures. So I think these pictures are really fun and add to the module itself, like, visualizing this.
This is where, so when they're going up the river, there's choices as to what directions and ways they can go. So there's multiple different event encounters that they can encounter. All of them, some of them, and it depends. It's player choice as to where they go. And so there's some spiders. There's a bear owl type creature. So we had to rename it because it's a trademark thing, but it's a bear owl type creature.
You know what we're talking about.
We know what I'm talking about. And then there's reasons why those are there, and you get to there's another sort of encounter where you can do role playing or you can combat. So there's options there. Then you can ask a lot of questions, and then there's our standard structure for NPCs giving answers. Then there's other things like a clearing, and you encounter a troll and an ogre who having an argument, which the dialogue in that is absolutely hilarious.
It is.
And then we come to the waterfall. So this module is really a one session module. It's not designed to be multiple sessions. It's not designed to be a campaign. It's purely, you can slot this into a campaign. So it really starts with you having walked through a forest and you come to the small town. So any forest that the players walk through, you can just slap this in there and away you go. You can now use this module. And so this is where we get to sort of like the meat of what's happening in this module when we get to the waterfall. We've got a lot of Scotty's great terrain picks here. Just tell us a little bit about how you did this cliff face with the pulley system here.
Yeah. I carved out a piece of styrofoam and set it up vertically, and then I had the hanging baskets because in the module they use these kind of elevators to go up to the mine itself. So and it's behind this waterfall. So I really wanted to feature that, and so yeah, that's I set up all this terrain and for the picture and everything. So yeah, it's just like this rock face wall essentially. But I want to talk a little bit, a couple of seconds about like getting to this point. One is we like to give you plot points. So what Gareth said is like you don't have to do all the encounters. Whatever the players choose, whatever meandery way the players choose to get there. If they choose to have several encounters, they kind of go right there. It works. It'll work in your game. And another thing is like every encounter is giving you some information about what's happening. Like you're getting some information about the area and what's happened in the area. And I like that. Like sometimes random encounters can just feel random. They don't tie into the story. And I like everything to tie into the story, even if it's just giving you some little clue. I like to do that in an adventure because it builds up in the player's mind, and it all makes logical sense. Like why these things are happening here, what's going on here. It all makes sense and really adds to the whole and gives a great experience for the players.
Yeah, and we've flipped it a bit. Like the encounter with the orcs is not a normal encounter, right? It's not what you'd expect from orcs. The townspeople react as though it is what you expect from orcs. But when you actually look at the orc dialogue and what the orcs are saying, you can see like they're pretty concerned about things that are happening, and they want to just like warn the townspeople because it's affecting them too. So
exactly.
It plays with the normal player perception of what the bad guys are, and that's what makes it interesting. Is that it's not your common perception of things. Now, obviously, they're normal orcs, so there's nothing special about them. But I also love the way they treat goblins too.
Yeah. It is fun, yes.
So
the goblins don't like it.
That's right. The goblins definitely don't like it. So so we move on to where we get into the actual cave system that's behind this waterfall, and you discover the sort of plot of what's happening. Then once you kind of figure out what's going on, and like the dragon gets loosed, we then come to the escape, which is basically now you've got to go down river on the barge, which echoes our On the Run module, but done in a very different way. So this is a lot of fun. Obviously, it's a barge going down a river, and there's lots of things. You've got a dragon attacking you. So there's a lot of sort of great playful elements. It doesn't really matter what level you're at. It really helps you helps you just get that excitement going. Helps the excitement get the blood pumping, and sort of crescendo to the sort of end of the adventure here, where you end up back in town. So yeah, final thoughts, Scotty?
I love the dragon in this because a lot of players are going in with, they're going to slay the dragon, or, oh, the dragon's immediately going to attack us, right? Well, the dragon is being used by these wizards and it's in shabby shape. They've abused it essentially. So when it finally, it gets free and it's enraged. So the players, see it from kind of a different angle. And it's like, with the angle that they see it from, they're not just immediately necessarily going to attack it. Probably not. You know what I'm saying? Because it's not in that situation where, oh, we go in here and take your treasure, right? The dragon doesn't have any treasure. So it's like, it doesn't encourage that. But when the dragon escapes, there's some great description of how the dragon is, crushing and eating people, the people that were his captors. And, the adventurers might be like, great, but the problem is it tries to get revenge on them when you're on the raft with the bad guys. So you're kind of you're collateral damage, right? So whether you sympathy with the dragon or not, it's dangerous to you. It ends up being dangerous to you. So I think that's a really fun thing. And I love the ending of this adventure because you've had this exciting river rafting, thing where there's the dragon, you're fighting the cultists, the necromancers, all this stuff is happening. And like our other modules, we like callbacks to things that happened earlier. So if you did this, if you didn't stop the troll and the ogre, they might be helping attack you. If you didn't stop if you didn't kill the bear owls, they do something too. So it's like all this stuff comes back in this final rush down the river to escape what's happening from the mine, which you see in the adventure. But I love that you just kind of, after all that craziness, if you survive, you just kind of glide up to the dock, right? You kind of glide up to the dock and get off, and the innkeeper is like offering you to come in and have some ale. You know what I'm saying? So it started where it ended, or it ends where it started. In the inn, you start in the inn, and then you more than likely end in the inn because the innkeeper invites you in to wet your thirsty whistles after this crazy adventure. So I love that kind of circular
it's also
thing, and the trope of the inn.
We also use a lot of intertextual references. So there's a lot of sort of nerd culture references in things, and that sort of barge arriving at the end is just like Pirates of the Caribbean, where he arrives at the dock on the crow's nest of the boat as it sinks, and he steps
and then steps off.
That's the sort of imagery that we're like working with. So there's a lot of that. We always do callbacks to like Indiana Jones and horror movies and all that kind of thing. So there's always that visual in the players' minds. They may not recognize what it is, but the feeling that you get from that movie or the book or the horror film or whatever, that's what we're trying to like bring through into this. So it's really enjoyable. You'll have a lot of fun with it.
Right. And you'll see, everything ties together, right? It's not just random monsters put together. There's a reason the green dragon is captured, and they're I call it milking the dragon. There's a reason that there's zombies running around, and some of them are panhandling gold. Like they're spooning, they're panning gold. There's a reason why this cult is here. There's all the stuff comes together to make sense. That there's a reason. Also, this is kind of cool in the module. We kind of let it be up to you what the cult is up to as far as their long-term goals, right? Because you kind of shut down this operation, but their long-term goals you could add into your own adventures. Like this, you could slot this easily into your own campaign, and then this is some faction of the baddies, and what they were doing here ties into the main campaign. So we leave that ultimate question up to you. It can be as simple as, the goal that you find out in the adventure what they were doing, or it can be a tendril of an evil plan was working back through the whole campaign. So I think that's fun too, that you can how that ends like that, how you can decide how far you want to take this, if it's just truly a one shot or it's part of a campaign.
Also, because we don't supply a summary and that sort of thing, we don't really explain implicitly what's actually going on. And that allows you and the players to fill in your own in-between blanks of what you believe is going on, which I think is important in a role-playing game. In a movie or a story, obviously, it's more important that you do have some idea of what the hell's going on. But in a role-playing module, you need those gaps and those spaces to insert your own flavor, your own world, all the little bits and pieces that you've created. You need space to do that. And that's something that's often lacking. It's like it's far too rigid and it's not open enough. And it doesn't allow you these spaces to inject your own story and that sort of thing. Like, when you're doing the rounds in here to the different encounters, there's no reason why you can't add another 3 or 4 in there. If you want to make it a multi-session campaign, you can. We don't want anyone to feel like you gotta do it this way.
Exactly.
That's not how we want it. This is just essentially is flavor and a structure to a story that you can then glob on whatever you need to make it work for your game system, for your world, for your levels, whatever, because it's system neutral. You don't need to have it in a specific type of game. You can run it however you want, wherever you want, whenever you want, and in whatever game system you want. So that's the Green Mine. Thank you for joining us, and you can pick this up on our website, questgivers.com. Links are in the description below, and you can also check out all the miniatures from 3D Printed Tabletop and Dylan Olney through the Lost Adventures. I will include a link for that as well. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in the next Quest Givers video.
See you guys next time.